Up with the Cox Plate, it's the big Group 1. A lot of discussion about the makeup, what the weather's going to do, maybe some showers Friday into Saturday, what the track condition will do. Miles, how do you see the overview of the class in this year's Cox Plate?
I'm pretty excited about the class this year, Andrew. I think it probably almost hasn't been talked up enough. We've got some international competition, arguably 2 or 3 of the best local horses going around as well. I've sort of had an early look and trying to get an early look at the track, so I've probably settled on some horses that can handle almost all conditions if it changes on the day or morning of, and more than likely horses that can also do it on speed or just off midfield. So I've sort of come up with 4 selections, but I think it's a very, very competitive race and really looking forward to it. But yeah, with this international competition in Gold Trip and State of Rest, I think it's a bit better than what people are giving for.
Well, Dean, Gold Trip comes with an international rating of 119, and that tells me that he's in a young part of his career. He's running some very good races.
He has. He's a very, very good horse. He ran 4th in the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. It was only beaten 2.4 lengths as a 3-year-old. As one of the highest rating races in the world. He's run 2 close placings in Group 1 company over 2100 and 2400 in his last 2 starts. He's been targeted for this, and all reports, both from the overseas ratings experts and even from the stable, are that this is a much better horse than Sir Dragonet. And if that's the case, then he's just right up to this, to his eyeballs, and he's got to be one of the absolute main chances.
He came here and he had a little bit of stiffness in the body and he had to be vetted a couple of times, and all of these horses are going to be looked at today by Racing Victoria Vet. So let's hope it all goes to plan for Australian bloodstock around Gold Trip. But the one thing, Miles, that Jamie Lovett has said all the way along, that if the rain comes, then bring it on for Gold Trip.
Yeah, and that's what I've looked at here, Andrew. Certainly in my numbers, Gold Trip. When we spoke to Jamie, I think actually on this program a while ago, was a horse that we had a fair bit of an opinion on. Look, I think we've missed this international competition so far this spring. And so horses like Gold Trip and State of Rest, I've got right in my inclusion in my numbers. They're horses that can handle sort of different levels of ground, different levels of tactical speed, and they're always those sort of bigger, rangier types that can also handle tight corners. So Gold Trip and State of Rest are in my numbers, but yeah, I agree. If there's some rain, I think my numbers are probably going to match up because I've gone for horses that can handle it all.
Dean, State of Rest is the other one of the internationals. For people that haven't seen the Saratoga Derby, they probably need to Google it, go through YouTube and find out because the horse showed, well, a terrific burst of speed, and many believe it was a better win than Adelaide in the same race.
Yeah, that's right. It was a really impressive win visually. He showed a very, very impressive turn of foot there, and that sort of, especially that 400 to 200 metres sort of section, which, on the Cox Plate, you really got to get yourself into the race and be able to kick away from them. It's the same trainer who trained Adelaide to win the Cox Plate off a very similar American Group 1 win. And again, he's just another horse that profiles really well for this race. I think it's just fantastic. We've got 2 very, very strong overseas horses who both can very clearly win the race.
Then you switch back home and you listen to Chris Waller, and we played the interview earlier. The key words around Very Elegant. She's back where she was prior to the Caulfield Cup. Blood tests, the way she worked at the Valley earlier this week. Miles, if she runs her best, she's in the finish. But I guess there's that if of her last run.
There's a little bit of an if for me here off her last run, but there's also an if for me here at the Valley track. I've always had her as a mare, and we've seen her up decent straights where when she balances up and fights, that's where she's at her best. And Moonee Valley, as we know, is probably a track that sometimes horses find it really hard to balance up at. Look, I don't have her in my top 4, Very Elegant. And it's not going to be popular with the punters, but I like to see her on a reasonable sort of a straight where she can balance up and fight and actually show how tough she is and her will to win. But I think when you get maybe a quite a speedy little Cox Plate where horses are going to flick off that turn and be fighting for position a bit, probably bunched up, coming into that turn. I don't have her sort of in the top 4 at this stage.
Okay, we'll get overviews on from both of you on your top 3 or 4 in the race. So I'm just picking out a few. Dean, you're a very good analyst looking at the history of the race. Godolphin don't run too many 3-year-olds. They don't run for the sake of it in a Cox Plate. So that gives us a line that they feel that the Caulfield Guineas winner, Animo, can win the Cox Plate.
Yeah, look, and 3-year-olds do have a very good record in the race. Interestingly, I think some of the 3-year-olds that have succeeded in this race have sort of been ridden forward. I think the one interesting thing about Animo is on its natural speed. I've got it mapping right back to last, but he's won the Caulfield Guineas last start in the quickest time in 40 years. He's a high quality colt, and he's got to be in the race. But I can't discount Captivant either. I think that it just adds another level of intrigue. These 2 3-year-olds and Captivant. His 2 best career runs have been the mile over the Champagne and the second in the Caulfield Guineas. The further the better for this horse. He can take a bit more of a position as well, and there's potential that they might just be favoured a bit on sort of rails and on pace. Over this meeting, and if that's the case, then I think even Captivant could give it a shake because he was a very good run and was pretty close to Animo last start.
Well, Peter Snowden saying this morning that off barrier 1, they'd hope that Captivant would be in the first 3 or 4. I guess for all of them outside Zaki, they've got to be mindful if J-Mac takes it up, just how quick or slow that he's going, Dean.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to monitor. I just think the tactical element of this race is going to be fascinating. I think he's going to take the bull by the horns on Zaki. You've got sort of Delasan, Call Sign, Mav, and Captivant. I think he's going to take a position. Probably Gold Trip they won't have too far out, but I definitely think they're not going to let Zaki dawdle. We're going to get to the 800 metres, and I think they're just going to start taking off. You've then got the 3-year-olds. You'll have Captivant, who I think they'll really push early and try to make a race of it. Animo will start trying to swoop. So I think we're going to get a really, really exciting race from the 800 metres, and I think they're going to fan wide like they did in that Maccabi Diva, Cox Plate, where you're just going to see them all ride and really having a crack. And I think the speed's going to be electric, and they're going to take off from the 800, and it's just going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Miles, we mentioned Zaki. Do we forget? Have we oversold that last run?
Look, maybe. You can't rule out Zaki. I think sometimes horses, when you see them under a bit of pressure like that, horses do lose. Look, probably the $1.28, makes it a bit sort of scary. Look, I fully agree with Dean here. This tactical battle here is pivotal, and I don't think you're going to find Zaki doing a lot of the legwork because you are going to have those horses like Call Sign Mav, maybe 1 or 2 of the 3-year-olds, and Delasan pushing up there. But look, Zaki's right in my numbers. You can't rule this horse off. He's a superstar and will be a superstar. Can do it on speed. Can do it in sort of in soft conditions, good conditions. And look, I've just put a sort of a half a tick against the third in the last run, and I'm happy to keep going with him.
Our regular Dave says, I'm really keen on Mo'unga each way in the Cox Plate. I think he's underrated and in great form. Dean, he's $17. Has he been a bit forgotten because of Zaki?
Yeah, possibly. I think there's a little bit of question mark on some of that sort of 3-year-old form. And some of those horses that he sort of ran around the Randwick Guineas and Rosehill Guineas haven't stepped up, and he was sort of good in his first couple of runs. Got knocked down in the Epsom. Look, he's a high quality horse, but I just think this is such a high quality race. I think of a really, really tough 2,000 metres. I think some others are going to have his measure.
Right now, Zaki is $2.80 at Bet365. Gold Trip at 9. Mo'unga 17. Very Elegant now into 6. Probabeel 14. State of Rest at $12, Animo at $4.50, and Captivant is at $21. The one there that we haven't mentioned, guys, is Probabeel. And I guess for a second straight year, Cambridge Studs owners Brendan and Joe Lindsay, Miles, are pushing the rain away.
Yeah, look, I think they might be too. Look, super run at Caulfield last start was massive, and look, beating non-conformists, and we've seen non-conformists come out again, same as incentivised come out again. I'm just a bit of a query with Probabile at the Valley. Unplaced from 2 goes at the Valley, and I'm a big person on form with horses that I think that can run the Valley, and I don't think that Probabile is one of them. So I was happy to leave it out, but look, I might have egg on my face.
My pen is poised for the Cox Plate. So, Dean, let me hear yours.
Look, I've got Gold Trip on top. I think he just rates through the roof from an international perspective for this race. And if he's right, he's going to be extremely hard to beat, particularly if it's sort of a soft 5 or soft 6. State of Rest, again, just profile very, very similarly to Adelaide. And I just think the overseas horses in these big races have such an amazing record. Both of them at double-figure odds. I've just got to be on them on top. And I like the 2 3-year-olds. I think Animal and Cap Devant are 2 high-quality 3-year-olds. They generally run well in this race. And Cap Devant in particular at $21 is a nice price. And for me, they're the 4 from a betting perspective. I think Zaki can win if it's wet enough, but $2.80 is very short.
So Gold Trip for you. What about you, Miles?
I've settled on 4 horses. I've obviously got Moanga on top. Look, that second in the Maccabi Diva was enough for me. Annabelle Neesham said the whole time that this horse is a 2,000-metre plus horse. I think, like we said, is knocked down in the Epsom, but that second in the Maccabi Diva was enough for me over the 1,600. Look, we said on your show, Andrew, a long time ago that was going to be the futures ticket at 56s, so hopefully a few people had a go there. I've actually got an Annabelle Neesham Quinella. I've got Zaki running into second. I think it's probably just going to, James will probably maybe settle just a little bit off speed, but still sort of up in the first 2 or 3 with Moanga maybe going past it. And then I'm the same as Dean here. I've got Gold Trip running into third, rates through the roof. There's a lot of local people that won't be on Gold Trip because they don't see overseas replays. They don't do overseas form. And everyone's got carried away with Incentivize. Gold Trip into third for me, and then State of Rest as well. That last win, was unbelievable. Like you said, the profile for Adelaide. Look, you've got to have the internationals in here. They're a class above. And so I'm happy to take on the mares in Very Elegant and Probabile. More than happy to take on the 3-year-olds in Animo and Cap Devant. I think it'll be a rough run, sort of maybe high pressure Cox Plate, the same as Dean said. And you'll see a wall of them coming around, but then horses that'll love the Valley, love the going, and love bullocky pressure will the ones that will shine. So Moanga from Zaki, Gold Trip, and State of Rest.